Guess who's going to be reading for 24 hours? Hi, it's me. Or should I say, hi, I'm the problem, it's me, because it actually kind of is. If you guys have been here for a while, then you'd know that I used to do either 24 or 48-hour reading vlogs every single month in the land of far, far away, once upon a time. Now I don't do this anymore because I promised myself that I would take 2023, my year in reading. I would take it a lot slower than I have in the past, in fear of it becoming exactly what it was feeling like last year. I have not done one of these, but I have set up a plan for myself. As soon as 7 p.m. strikes, I will be starting a timer just so that you guys can see the progression during the 24 hours. The timer will not be stopped. If I take naps, if I go to bed, if I have something to do, the timer will keep running. I have no idea what I'm going to start out with though. So let us get through some options before I go downstairs and pick up my Starbucks, which just also got here. Recently got a package and I already know what it is because I've been waiting for this forever. So we've got Legendary, which is the sequel to Caraval. I recently finished Caraval and I really enjoyed it, so I immediately ordered Legendary. Daisy Hates is also another option. I think either of these would be a vibe, if not, oh my god, a cat. If not one of those two, I also borrowed Fourth Wing from Libby. So I think either of these three options would be really fun. I will leave it up for you guys to decide. Let's go put up a poll on Instagram. Okay, friends, so first update. We are, I don't even know how many hours in. I'm horrible at math. I think 5 hours in. Yes, I think that tracks from 7 to midnight, which is where we're at. And the very first book I started out with is Fourth Wing, which I asked you guys on Instagram, again, what I should start out the readathon with, and Fourth Wing won. I should not have been half as surprised as I was. I, for some reason, thought Daisy Hates was going to win. You guys proved me wrong, though. However, 150 pages into the book, and this is like the weirdest explanation ever, but the book so far, to me at least, it's like a mix between Divergent, particularly on the training side once they've chosen their faction, and Satan is very much giving a little bit of 4, and then the powers, the signets that they acquire through bonding with a dragon. I'll explain the plot in a little bit, I promise. It'll make sense. It reminds me of the abilities in Twilight. I feel like that's the weirdest pitch you'll ever hear for this book. Or maybe that's the norm. I really don't know. What are the people pitching this book as? Because I'm curious as to how the people are selling this one. I think so far it really is just vibes. I will say some parts of the dialogue feel so out of place for a fantasy book. I cannot take it seriously. And there are simply parts of the book that feel very silly. As far as a synopsis goes though, essentially we live in a world where war has been raging for a while, and in order to defend themselves from incoming danger, people from this world go to a war academy where they can train, and the best of the best are chosen to bond with dragons, and through bonding with dragons they acquire abilities that aid them in said war. And we particularly follow Violet, who is the daughter of a super high ranking lady in this world, and her journey through the academy and through the trials and tribulations of it all, as somebody who has been continuously underestimated for her entire life because she gets hurt very easily. She has kind of always embraced the fate that she does not want to be a dragon rider. She does not want to go to War Academy. In fact, she wanted to go to the Scribe Squadron because she knew, or at least she thought, that she would be a better fit for being a scribe than she would being a warrior. And her mom very much pushes her into this journey because everybody in the family, I guess, has something to prove because they are so legendary, and most of the dragon riders are there through being legacies. And so her mom's like, yeah, baby girl, you have to be a dragon rider. So off to war camp we go. And so she gets there, and very quickly everybody has it against her because of who she is and the family that she comes from. And she ends up meeting Satan, who is one of the top ranking officials, wing leaders at said academy. enemy, and they have this very feudy situation ongoing because their parents are rivals or they're enemies, however we want to phrase it, and therefore they also behave like they're rivals. I don't know if I'd necessarily call it enemies because I think that the display of enemies is not that much there, more than there is just a regular animosity. So far, it's been a lot about the exposure of the world, how these trials work, the training process, the different dragons that exist in this world, and how exactly the abilities come about and how they come in handy. Right now, I'm like, I don't know how to feel about it, but I'm engaged and I'm reading it. So I'll go get this off my face because I do want to go to bed, and I'll read some more. I also need to take my magnesium. I forgot to do that because I was on sprints. However, we'll do all those things. So I've made it to chapter 16 of Fourth Wing, and honestly, Darren, are we supposed to like him also? I'm sorry if the wind is strong, but it is what it is. I am up here, I am sun soaking, getting some vitamin D into my body. However, do we like Darren? Because I genuinely don't. Anytime he is mentioned Violet leaving for the scribe quadrant, I don't like that. First of all, it's not your place, buddy, to say like, let me save you. You need to be saved. It's the implication of that just because she gets hurt very easily and it's clearly something medical. It's oh my god, that underestimation is really driving me nuts. If I were to see this man in person, it would be on fucking sight if he says it again, because the amount of times he said it in this book has been absolutely annoying, which has made me wonder if he's actually all that good, which I don't think he is, but that's a conversation for another time. I also don't want to get into spoilers, but I just got to the actual like ceremony where they bond with the dragons. The dragon is so sassy and I love this so much. The dragon has a whole ass personality and sass, and I just love that the dragon is not just a dragon, but the dragon actually has a personality. They have a voice, they can talk. I just know it's going to make the dynamic of the book so much more interesting. Not to say that the book wasn't interesting before, because it was, but I think it's going to add another entire element of interest in the book. So I am very excited to see where it goes, but the whole bonding ceremony thing, loved every second of it. And Goldie, I know that's not her name, but Goldie. I look positively unhinged. Hello, friends. The first 24 hours are literally about to end in 6 seconds, and I just want to capture this moment since I can only do intervals of 24 hours. There we go. We have finished the first 24 hours of the readathon, and let us set another 24. You know what? I'm gonna take a 1 hour break because I do have to cook dinner and eat, and I do need to go lie down because this bitch is bothering me. And by bitch, I mean my temporomandibular joint. 65% through the book, 432 pages in, and I don't know what I'm thinking about this book. I genuinely don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know. Am I liking it? Am I not liking it? I can't make up my mind, but the interactions between Satan and what's her face, Violet, are really doing it for me. But at the same time, it's the only thing that's doing it for me because nothing else is quite moving the way that maybe I would be fawning over. Is that a word? Fawn. It doesn't feel as cutthroat as I feel like it should be. There is a sense of urgency sometimes because it is quite known that for the Rider quadrant, it is very deadly because not only is the ongoing war obviously super dangerous to the point where they're constantly dying, which is why so many of them are introduced every single year, but also within the training portion of it all, it's very cutthroat. Like we see them actively kill each other off because they're literally just coveting what other people have. It's very cutthroat in that sense, but even then, I'm not feeling the, oh my god, it's ride or die quite literally. I'm just seeing it as like, oh, it's just all of these characters are in this academic setting, but it doesn't, you know what it feels like to me? All of these pitches I'm giving, I think, are horrible. Maybe not what you guys were expecting. I feel like a lot of people were expecting me to enjoy this book, and I'm over here like, it's giving Twilight, Crave, and Divergent, which is probably the 3 worst things I can compare this to. I'm hoping that we get to see more unfold in these last like 200 pages that I have left. And I mean, it really is the thing that we are only exposed to as much as Violet is exposed to. We only know as much as she knows, which in ways is not a lot. Like, she is knowledgeable in certain areas and certain topics, but overall she, as much as her other peers, is left in the dark about a lot of things. So she doesn't really know the ins and outs and the machinations of the politics of this world. And so I kind of hope that we get to see more of that, because that's what I think the book is missing, is like those politics and the ins and outs of the world outside of what dragon is dangerous and what dragon isn't. You know what I mean? And so I wish that the book was giving me something other than what we're getting, because it's very one note. We just see them train, and although I like the training aspects of fantasy books, I think they're quite nice. The book is only the training. We only see them go through these trials in order to actually be induced into the army. However, they're only first year, so this is only the first year of their training, and I think it goes up to year 3, I think, is when they graduate. So that's concerning to me, because I kind of wish at this point that she would be out of there because it's so very much the same over and over again. What I will say is how much I'm liking how much less of Dane we're getting, because that is an insufferable motherfucker. I do not stand this man at all. Whenever he is on the page, I'm like, here he goes again with this superiority complex and the savior complex, where he thinks he can save Violet when she needs no saving. And I think that's a very commendable aspect of Violet as a character, is that despite everybody underestimating her, and despite her having this inner voice that is very self-sabotage and that is very critical of herself, that perhaps is even more critical than how people are critical of her, she keeps trying every single day, and this girl does not give up. She is so resilient, she is so strong, and she is so very determined to prove herself that she can do it. And I think that's something that I have absolutely loved about her character, which she mentioned to Dane too. She's like, I'm not doing this shit for you, baby boy. Like, I'm doing this for me. I'm not going to make any decisions based on what you want. I am making decisions based on what I want. And so that side of it, I do appreciate. Again, I wish we were getting more. I don't know what will become at the end of this, but we'll find out. 8 p.m. is here. Food has been consumed. Break has been taken. And now we start the next 24 hours. Let's go. So I finished Fourth Wing, and I don't know. Listen, the very last line might have made it all worth it, but I can't overlook the parts that I didn't like. I feel outside of Violet being extremely lovable as a main character and her journey being absolutely amazing to see, she's a character that doesn't like to be told who she is, what she can do, what she cannot do, and she continuously works so that she can prove herself that she can do things. And that amount of resilience and strength and determination is all worthy of the highest of admirations. So as far as the character motivation goes, I think Violet was fantastic. I also enjoyed Satan, because Satan is also another character that, despite what everybody thinks and says of him, he really has everybody's best intentions at heart. I'm very curious to see, if I were to read the second book, more about his dad's backstory, because I think that's fascinating based on what's been mentioned in the book. However, outside of these things and the dragons being fantastic empathic and actually being characters in the story and having personalities, I really didn't love the book because nothing happened in the book. There were these things being mentioned as far as the war goes and about why these kids have to train so hard. I say kids, but they're literally my age. And I think the fact that I say kids says a lot about the way I view the book, because I'm pretty sure the book is supposed to be adult fantasy. To me, it truly read like a YA fantasy. It might be YA, I'll correct myself on the screen if it is. Although all of these things are being mentioned throughout the book, we don't actively see anything worthy of proving that this is anything of actual importance. You know what I mean? That might be a weird way of phrasing it, but to me, what comes to mind is there's this big raging war happening, which is why they're going to war camp academy, but we don't see any of that up until the very, very, very end of the book. We don't get somewhat of an answer up until the very, very, very end of the book. And again, I can argue that we find that out so late because Violet doesn't know and the book is written in first person, but this is exactly why at times I don't enjoy first person point of view, particularly when it comes to fantasy books, because it's such a narrow view of the world, and being so out of the know like this makes a book feel so monotonous to me sometimes that I don't end up loving it. And so that to me, I think, is one of the most frustrating aspects of the book, because I was expecting something absolutely incredible, fantastic, never seen before, like a lot of people have been claiming this book to be, but ultimately it felt really flat for me. And so I'm rating it 2.5 stars. May or may not read the next book in the series. I just don't think the series needs to be 5 books long. That to me is so unnecessary. Nothing about this world is giving me I need 5 books to get somewhere, because for the majority of the book, nothing even happens. If some things were to have happened, we could have made this into a duology and called it a day. But alas, we've wasted time on things that to me don't seem as important. And also the romance aspect of it. Listen, I love me a good enemies to lovers, but this is not enemies to lovers. I think the way we're using enemies to lovers now is so loose. I'm gonna start charging y'all every time y'all use enemies to lovers wrongly. These people, and it's mentioned in the book too, I fell in love with you from the moment I saw you. You are not fucking enemies. Just because y'all dislike each other a little bit doesn't make y'all enemies. It's just, it's so ridiculous to me. There's that. All in all, Crave, Twilight, Divergent, and From Blood and Ash is how I would pitch this book. And I've questioned all of those before. Now we move on to hopefully calmer waters, and I am going to be starting Miss Daisy Hates, which will hopefully bring me a lot of serotonin, because I can't wait to read about Julian, Daisy, and Christian. Okay, so I'm here with an update. I've been reading. There's 4.5 hours left of the readathon. I am about to go out though, which is why there's an outfit change. They opened BBQ Chicken here in Panama, which is the best of the best quality chicken. It is a Korean restaurant and my brother and I are dying to try it out. So we're gonna go do that, but I am taking my book with me. I am currently 72 pages into this one, and this is the second book in the Magnolia Parks universe. The books alternate between one Magnolia book, one Daisy book. In Magnolia Parks, the first one, we observe Christian Hems, which is one of the guys in the friend crew, one who has a very long history with Magnolia as well, pop up with a girly pop from a mob family called Daisy Hates, and everybody's kind of wondering what their history is, what their track record is, and why they're hanging out together. It is alluded to that they are canoodling, but we don't know the ins and outs of that whole dynamic in Magnolia Parks. And so in this one, we get to see what is actually going down, and this alternates between Daisy's POV, Christian's POV, and then also Julian's POV, which is Daisy's brother. Daisy's brother Julian raised Daisy because their parents died very tragically because of the life they lead, which is a very, danger zone life. That's kind of the gist of it. That's kind of what it's about. And so we follow her as a med student and her dynamic with Christian, her dynamic with an ex-boyfriend called Romeo, who she also has a lot of history with, Christian's dynamic with Magnolia, which is pretty fucked up, which we not only see in the first book, but also in this one. This and the first book happen in tandem, so this is happening at the exact same time. Everything we do not get to see in that first book, we get to see in this one, which is really, really nice. And that's kind of all it's been so far. They're fuck buddies, so they don't have necessarily a full-blown proper relationship, but it's the classic don't get jealous. We can't really be envious of each other's, you know, other people we're fucking, and we can't be in a relationship because both of us are emotionally unavailable, which is all a recipe for disaster because of course they get jealous, of course they get possessive, and of course they want to be together, but they know at the moment that it is not possible. So I can't wait to keep reading and see where it goes. It feels shorter than Magnolia. I don't know if that's true though. I can't remember how long Magnolia is, but I'm having a good time so far. Can't wait to see more of it. I hope we see like some actual like mob action go down. That'd be really fun. Good morning, friends. It is Monday morning. I literally crashed. As soon as it hit 8 p.m., I just crashed. My brother came over after we went out to eat, which the Korean restaurant was impossible to go to. The line was so long. They had closed the list and the waiting time was like 2 to 3 hours, which is crazy. But we went to another wings place that we love. We ate there, watched or attempted to watch Tron Legacy. I quite literally crashed throughout the entire movie. Woke up at like 10-ish p.m. when the credits were rolling, and at that point I just took my magnesium and went to bed. So that's how it worked out. But by the time 8 p.m. had hit, I did get to page 92 of Daisy Hates. Interestingly enough, one of my biggest praises, sales coming, one of my biggest praises for Magnolia Parks is the fact that I saw the connection between Magnolia and BJ, hi baby, so quickly into the start of the book, and it was an immediate reaction to their chemistry and their dynamics and everything, and I do not quite see that yet in Daisy Hates, which is a little bit frustrating. I am enjoying this just because of the dramatics of it all, but I don't really see that deep a connection between Daisy and Christian. There's also an ex-boyfriend that keeps coming up called Romeo, who I could not care less about. And so as far as how connected I am to the story at the moment, the answer is not very, which is interesting. I'm curious to see how it'll keep progressing because I'm already basically 100 pages in, so I'll be starting a weekly vlog right after this, so I'll document the rest of the book there. But I hope it does get better because so far it has sort of a similar structure to Magnolia in terms of both of these people are vying for other people instead of each other, and it's just so very complicated, and I was expecting the dynamics of this to be very different from Magnolia. I was expecting it to be just about the two of them, and yes, circumstances surrounding it, but not too much. And so I am a little bit disappointed right off the get-go that it's basically the same, just with Christian and Daisy. So there is that, friends. That is the end of the video. This was a realistic, if I were to do a readathon on a random weekend of my life, how would it actually look like? I, of course, way back when used to stay up all night. I used to go extremely hard during readathons. I cannot do that anymore because of my jaw issues. I was recently diagnosed with a temporomandibular disorder as well as bruxism, and both of those things thrive on anxiety and stress, and so it immediately impacts the condition physically, and I cannot stay up too late because then my night of sleep is not the same, and I clench my teeth even more throughout the night. And so now the dynamic is even more different, aside from wanting to take reading slower this year and having a really big mission with that. Now the physical condition kind of forces me to also accompany that feeling because I can't stay up for too long. So this is what realistically I would be able to read based on the current circumstances, which is what, 700 and something pages, almost 800 pages. I'd still say it's very good. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up down below as per usual. Subscribe down below if you haven't done so already. Don't forget that I do have a Patreon in case you want to support the channel further, always linked down below, as well as all of my other socials and the podcast. And yes, there's that. Love you guys so much, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.